Can you tell us your name?
Okay, my name is Joanne Anderson.
And you have 2 children?
I have 3 children. Actually, not so much children anymore. I've got a 23-year-old.
We're waiting for him to come back in again.
I have a 23-year-old, a almost 22-year-old, Imogen, who's with me today, and I have Joseph, who is nearly 16.
All right, so people like to call people like you an anti-vaxxer. Clearly you vaccinated your children, so can you tell us what your thinking on vaccines were when you were first pregnant with your first child?
When I was first pregnant, it was standard. To be perfectly honest, I don't think we even thought about it. I think it was just something that you did. Some of my colleagues and friends were questioning vaccines, and I pretty much poo-pooed them and said, "Oh, you know, my doctor's telling me absolutely it's the right thing to do. Then we should follow the protocol and we should get them vaccinated as everyone else does. Just be a sheep and follow the herd, really." So that was my approach with my first child, Matthew.
And how's Matthew?
Yeah, Mum needs you
Matthew's
10 minutes,
great.
then you can go back outside.
Joe, come and sit down for 5 minutes.
That's a fire door. Come on, go and sit down.
5 minutes and then you can go.
This way.
Come on. All right, you're going to say hi again.
Hi.
Hi.
Right, we're going to count down the time. Imogen's going to help with the time, and then you can go, okay? Is that all right?
10
No.
minutes.
Is that okay? Right, Mummy's going to start talking. You can say something if you want to, but it's up to you, okay? Have fun. Right. Okay, so Matthew's absolutely fine. He's currently at university studying chemistry. Imogen, who is 22, has she's been finished her history degree, and she got a first in her history degree. So,
At what age did you stop, if at all, vaccinating them?
so once there's a 6-year gap between Imogen and Joseph. So once we experienced what we did with Joseph, Imogen had no further vaccines. So no more boosters. We certainly didn't give her the new cervical cancer vaccination. We didn't do anything at all. So it's a case of our house and the rest of my family are all absolutely the same because they witnessed exactly what happened with Joseph.
That's very important. So they stopped vaccinating because they saw averages. I thought it was because of Andrew Wakefield.
Absolutely not. No, they absolutely witnessed firsthand what happened to Joseph over a 2-week period of time.
Right.
You don't go from being, as my doctor declared, an atypical developing child. In fact, he said he was perfect, to a child with, severe autism in 2 weeks. I think the issue with Joseph in particular started with the first of the vaccines. So the whooping cough, as we call it over here.
GTP.
Yes, absolutely it. He had a severe reaction to the first dose. I went to see the GP. The GP gave us antibiotics. This is quite a typical story that you hear now from all of us, isn't it? When it got to the stage of the second vaccination, I said to him, really, he's not recovered from the first. No, absolutely, just soldier on. So we went through the same protocol. He again had antibiotics after the second. By the time we got to the third vaccination, he was so poorly.
Going?
He was diagnosed with bronchitis.
Where's
He
Guys
had
going?
horrendous.
Where's guys going?
We won't be long, darling. So we had more antibiotics. He had bronchitis, and it took us weeks and weeks to get over that. So I was full of doubt over the vaccines, asking lots of questions. We got to 15 months and I was being badgered by the surgery, you must bring him in, etc. And I ignored and I was standing firm. At 15 months, Joseph was used in an assessment process for developing children and to teach doctors how to do an assessment called the Griffith assessment. So at 15 months, he was used as a bit of a guinea pig, really. At the end of that, I have a report that says he was a little bit quiet on the day, but actually, in most of the areas, he was above developing child. So again, I was quite happy. He seemed to have got over the first batch of vaccines. On top of that, we have a niece who contracted meningococcal septicemia and was left brain damaged with limited mobility, Ellie Jane. the nurse and the doctor at the surgery were saying, oh, this is what happens when you don't vaccinate your children, etc., etc. So it's 17
We
months.
go back on the swing.
Yeah, we're going to go back in the swing soon.
Right.
Okay? Nearly 10 minutes up, okay?
No, don't go back on the swing.
We're going back to the swing at
1517.
1517. Is that okay? Give me one kiss. You want blurting? Okay, quickly, come on. Okay, that's enough. So it's 17 months. I took Joseph in for his MR vaccination. Within 10 minutes of his
Don't go back to
vaccination,
Mama's car.
I now know what I was witnessing was Joseph having a seizure.
1550.
He screamed and screamed. We took him home. I called the doctor and he said it's just a normal reaction. Just keep on, he'll be fine. Over the next 2 weeks, we got to the stage where he had severe vomiting, diarrhea. He stopped eye contact. By the end of the 2 weeks, he was lying on the floor. We had no language. Language had gone because he'd started to talk. At 17 months, they'd started to talk. So we'd lost language, we'd lost mobility, no eye contact whatsoever. He just completely shut down. All he would do is lie on the floor, eyes in the back of his head or looking out the window. That's as much as we got from him. He disappeared in that period of time. So this was me putting my 100% faith in everything the doctor was saying. So again, we spoke to the doctor, we spoke to health professionals. I knew what was wrong. I absolutely knew immediately what was wrong. It took us from 17 months until 3.5 to get him diagnosed.
What did they say when you said this is what's happened after the vaccine?
Told me I was absolutely wrong, that it was normal for autism to develop at around 15 to 17 months. Said that I was an overprotective mum, and I said, yes, I absolutely am, and I'm very proud of it. Thank you very much. So we had to fight until 3.5 to actually get him diagnosed. We then started an ABA program, and the first day of the first program, he actually spoke for the first time since he was 17 months. Thank you, darling. We continued with the ABA, although to say it was ABA is a little bit of an exaggeration. We had VB in there as well. And he started to develop. We've got some spontaneous language. I mean,
Did you do this diet?
yes, we've done the diet as well. So we've been, gluten, casein. Casein's more of an issue with Joe than gluten. We've, been all over the world. We came across to the States. We went to Thoughtful House. We went to Dr. Jepson. He's had a colonoscopy via Arthur Krigsman, who is amazing. I love him to bits. And talk sense, because over here, we were told you couldn't do anything. I was told to take him
Did you
home.
go to a gastroenterologist?
Yeah.
Useless.
Paediatrician, absolutely dreadful. Paediatrician said that, again, there was nothing that could be done. We were making too much fuss. Couldn't get speech and language therapy. Took the county educational organisation to court. And a week before we went to court, they called us in and they settled with us. So we had funding to help them develop, but the whole process was immensely stressful. But going over to see Dr. Krigsman in particular helped us massively, because that got us onto a process of, taking care of his gut, making sure that he was eating the right things. And he has developed from that point forward. He has. The big issue that's happened more recently, September to September 15. He's trying everything now. He's trying everything to get away. Joseph, we came home from a party, sitting on the settee, I turned around, Joseph was having a full tonic-clonic seizure. So we now have the delight of epilepsy, which is vaccine-induced for sure. He has got to the stage where he's having a tonic-clonic seizure every 2 weeks. You're now hurting, darling. And we're trying to control them as best we can. Of course, everyone's telling me that it's totally unrelated.
Right.
Of course it's related. We're very lucky in terms of the family setup that we have. I work full time. I'm a HR director, so my mother finished work to look after Joseph so that I could continue to keep things afloat at home. I've got an amazing daughter who comes down. She's living in Birmingham. She's doing her MA this year in history. You're now really hurting. Thank you. to look after him. 4 weeks ago, I had a little bit about of being unwell, rushed into accident emergency. I've got bowel cancer, so I've just had part of my bowel removed. I'm not worried about anything other than what happens to my children. I'm worried about, I'll get better. I will get better because, you know what, I've done epilepsy and I've done autism, so I will get better. But I have to get better. I have no choice because my daughter's 22.
It's okay.
My daughter's 22 and she needs to have a life. She doesn't need to be looking after her brother. So, do you know what? I have no choice. I will get better. And he will continue to develop and he will continue to get better. Not that I'm sure what better means, actually, but he will continue to have a good quality and a good standard of life where he's not hidden away in a dark room and he has an opportunity to, to enjoy life. I've rambled a bit there, haven't I?
No, you're wonderful. He's wonderful.
Joe,
Can we hear from you?
what do you want to say?
Are you sure you want to say hello? What else do you
I
want to say?
know.
What else do you want to
I
say?
think he wants to say goodbye.
Do you want to say goodbye? Do you want to go in the swing?
Do you want to go on the swing? Yeah,
No,
okay.
listen, but you have to talk properly. What do you have to say now? Say nice to meet you.
Say hello.
Hello.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
And I'm going to play on the swing.
Carry on this
Have
one.
fun on the
Okay.
swing. We love you. And you're a fantastic sister, by the way.
Thank you.
She really is. Yeah, the siblings.
Amazing. Amazing. They've both sort of chosen careers that they thought would help to, somehow support Joseph. So Matthew's doing chemistry. He does all of when I'm checking out something new, he does all of what's the effects and how that's going to interact with this. And Imogen's just constantly there as a support, and he adores her, absolutely adores her. But I can't. My husband, my mother, my mother-in-law, everyone, the whole family is geared around Joseph, and that's the only choice we had.
Well, I'm about to introduce you to your new family, which is thousands collectively between these lot that are sending you love
Oh, that's amazing.
from around the world.